Hi there, my name's James McDonald and I'm going to do a review of the Squier Vintage Modified series. This one here is the Vintage Modified 70s Stratocaster. It's got Duncan designed pickups on it, two-tone pots, volume pot, 5-way switch, off-white color. It's got an old standard Strat bridge. It's got the standard old school Strat tuners. This version was made in 2014 in Indonesia. And solid instruments. I always take the back plate off. I put 5 vintage Strat springs in the back. I don't use a whammy bar. I don't really lock that down. As you can see, it goes pretty good without a lot of maintenance. They intonate beautifully. And this one, when I got it, I was a bit concerned because I've really never seen a rosewood fretboard that was this light in color. It's almost a blonde. However, I contacted Fender Canada, and they told me that's fairly normal now with the newer rosewoods they're using. It's harder to get the dark, so they go with light. And actually, now that I'm used to it, I kind of like it. I assume this is a simulated bone nut, although I'm not sure. But anyway, it does the trick. I just put a little pencil lead in there when I do the strings. It seems to work the very best. Solid, fairly heavy instrument. There's really no maintenance to it at all. You just throw the strings on in no time with this top loading. You put the string in there. It's got the old school vintage tuners on it, which I really like. Stays in tune wonderfully. Has great tone, C-shaped neck. On the neck, I sand this down. This came with a gloss. Some people like the gloss. I really don't care for it, so I took a very fine sandpaper and I just rubbed it like this until I got the majority of the gloss off it, and it suits me very good. These stay on really well, although I tighten them once in a while. This down here, you got to tighten that a fair amount. That little screw there comes loose, but that's pretty normal on most Strats. Everything works really good on it. 2 string trees on this particular model, and as I said, the C neck is, I like it better because it's thicker than the modern C. I have fairly good sized hands, so I like a little bit of girth to the guitar itself, so I really like that. I think they're medium jumbo frets, I'm not sure, but they play very well. There's no issues with it as far as playability. I live in Canada, so even though it's in a humidified room, normally a couple times a year I have to do the truss a little bit, but the truss is extremely easy to work with. Works the very best, and minor adjustments to set things up. So that's the Vintage Modified 70s Strat, which I thought they were all called that. But, and I picked this up for 220 Canadian dollars used. A young fella had it and didn't play it much, needed the money. So I picked that up, and no case or anything with it, but it blew me away. I've had a couple of the Squier Vibe series, awesome. They are the best sounding Squier Strats that I've played. The only thing I didn't like on it was the neck, and I also like a little weight. I found the guitar was a little light, but for recording and playing, the Vibe series are an outstanding guitar. I wish they would make a Vibe series with the C neck on it and not the modern C, just for a little bit of a change up, and I'd probably get one again, but it just felt, I don't know, they sound great, but it just felt like a weak or something to me, not like a good Strat. Now that's the Vintage 70s Modified. Now this here I picked up with an awesome hard shell case, and I got this for $240 with the case. Again, the Duncan design. This one though has a humbucker on it. And this one's actually just called a Vintage Modified HSS, not a 70s. There's subtle differences. There's only 1 string tree on this one. Tuners are the same. Beautiful sunburst. The fit and finish on it is amazing. Actually, I couldn't believe that they're making instruments like that for that kind of money. Again, my 5 strings in the back plate off. Again, I sanded the neck. I got rid of the gloss. I don't really, as I mentioned, care for the gloss. And this sounds equally as good as that one. This one, what I like it for is that humbucker on the bridge for distorted sound or a little bit of a heavier guitar sound without that single coil hum. That, you know, I use Guitar Rig Pro 5, so normally I can get rid of that hum, but it takes a bit away from the warmth of the guitar when you do that, so I use this for this. Now this also has a C neck on it. However, it seems a little tiny bit smaller in girth than the white one. I don't know, you know, it probably is the same thing, and maybe it could be me, but it just feels a little bit thinner, but not to the point like in the Vibe series where it's quite noticeable. There's still a lot of meat on it. It seems to weigh a tiny bit less, although not a lot. But the thing about this that I really loved was the basswood here. The black here, as you can tell, is not painted down to here, so you can actually see that that's a one piece of wood. You can even see in the bridge area where it clearly shows that that's one piece of wood. So I mean, this is you know, a nice guitar. Again, intonation on both of them is bang on. You can put them bang on. These adjustment screws down here, I've never touched them. Some of them seem to be raised a bit, but you know, this one here, the white one, when I got it, I had to do some setup on it, not a lot. This one here, I haven't had to touch it. I've had it now probably 8 months. Bought it off an older gentleman who normally played acoustic, but he wanted to try an electric, so he bought this to give it a try. After a few months, he didn't like it. He had a beautiful hard shell case with it. So anyway, I saw it on a used sale, and he hardly touched it at all. And from the time I've got it until now, I don't know if it was set up like that from the factory, but they did an outstanding job setting it up. I mean, it's got a couple of things down here I had to do to get my string height proper. But again, quality instrument. I'm going to do a little demo with both of them on a backing track. And I've chose Little Wing so I can go through some various tones. Again, I'm running into a Boss BR800. I use a Rode NT1A mic. I got a AR2 tube MP preamp. I switched out and put a Mullard tube in that. And pretty much that's just for the mic though. Everything else is going through there into a laptop with VideoPad editor doing up the video. But again, if you get a chance to pick these up, now I've gone use Long and McQuaid is pretty much my exclusive people I go to for my guitars, and I've played their Mexican Strats, their American Strats, and you know, the American standard Strat, if I could afford one, would be the ultimate instrument. I mean, I really love those guitars. Again, they have a C neck on them, but again, it seems a little bit thicker. And the body itself seems a little bit, they just feel like a top of the line Strat, but they're quite expensive and really out of my budget for what I'm willing to pay for a guitar for what I do. I don't gig anymore. I just play at home. I record a lot, so I don't have, you know, any requirement to spend that amount of money on a guitar. But I will tell you that these are quality instruments. I used to get Squiers back in the late 80s and the 90s, and quite frankly, they were not that great. They were not put together well. I mean, they played okay, but the quality and standards nowadays have just like completely amazed me. I even picked up a Squier standard or deluxe. I'm not sure that it's one below these ones anyway. It's about $40 less. Same thing. It had the Duncan designed pickups in it. And again, the playability was outstanding. It had a C neck on it, and it was a white, Arctic white, or beautiful guitar. Played wonderful, and like brand new, the thing was like 330 bucks Canadian, and I'm like blown away that that they can make guitars like this. I would have no issue if I was still on the road, if I was still playing all the time, to take these on the road, put them in the stand. The thing I always love about a Strat is you can beat the absolute hell out of them, and you can't kill them. They need hardly any maintenance at all. Generally as well, if you pop a string at a gig or something like that, no issue. Now they recommend 9 the light gauge on this. I actually use 10 to 46s Alexer polywebs on all my electric guitars. My hands tend to sweat a fair amount. A little bit of tone loss in the highs and the mids. You can really notice it recording. However, these strings last for 3 months, 3.5 months, playing almost daily, at least an hour a day, and they seem to hold up extremely well. You wipe them down and they're good to go. They hold their tune extremely well, and yeah, you pay a little more for them. But Strings and Beyond online, I find, has some wicked sales by time, so that's normally how I buy them. And they're great strings, and so little plug for those guys, but they kind of deserve it. I've tried other things. I've tried the Fender Bullet series. Excuse me. I've tried all different kinds, to Dario, Dean Markley, you name it, I've tried them. I always go back to the Elixirs, number one, because they last long, and number two, they're damn near impossible to break. I haven't really broken a string probably in a couple of years, and I play mostly a lot of blues, so I do a lot of bending. I hit hard. I use the heaviest pick you can get, which you can't you can't even bend it. And I use these because, I don't know, I just got used to them. I only started using these about a year ago, and but I use like acoustic if I'm playing acoustics. I go with the skinny little nylons, and sometimes I'll go with the Dunlop here, 73 millimeter. If I'm doing strumming or rhythm tracks, I tend to go with a lighter pick. But if I'm playing blues, I like this, and this in combination with these strings, you would think that you would be popping strings left and right, but it doesn't happen. So again, you cannot go wrong with these instruments, in my opinion. And I'm not endorsed by anybody. I really don't care. I'm like most of us that just like to play a guitar and want an instrument that will stay in tune, that intonates well, that has a good sound, and that's pretty much maintenance free. Again, I have to give them kudos. The fit and finish is excellent. One other little trick I do that I learned a few years back, which amazingly kind of blew me away, is I always take these 4 neck plates and I turn them a tiny bit off so they're not so tight right into there, and I'll keep doing that just a tiny bit at a time till I hear a little something along that line. It doesn't affect the neck to my knowledge. It never has anyway. I've been doing that now for a few years. What it does though is it seems to make the guitar warmer and give it better sustain. And an old guy showed me that trick a number of years ago concerning Strats. So I kind of stuck to that, and it does make a difference. Now, you just do it though until you get a little bit of it's like you can't even notice it, but somewhere in here, it just I don't know if it separates it up to resonate better. Anyway, you can try it. I mean, it's up to you. You don't like it. It's the same with 5 springs. I don't know if there's any difference. I really can't hear the difference between 5 and 3, but I always put 5 in because I find that it helps keep my guitar in tune, helps to keep this area in place, and I normally drop these screws down about to where they are here. Not a whole lot, just enough there so that I can basically have that flush down here on the bottom. And like I said, I don't use a whammy. I'm pretty much a blues guy with bending and finger vibrato.